The Volanthi Empire was old. It had ruled 17 star systems for 3,000 years. The Volanthi were tall creatures with hard shells like insects. They had many eyes and sharp claws. Their queens were treated like gods. Every Volanthi was connected to every other Volanthi to something called the hive mind. It was like a voice in their heads that never stopped. It made them feel whole. Queen Cirith of House Nathara was young for a queen. She was only 200 years old. Her shell was dark blue, almost black, and her eyes were bright gold. She ruled over 3 planets and commanded a fleet of 200 warships. The High Council of the Empire respected her wisdom, but they did not like her soft heart. The problem started with a small planet called Earth Colony 7. It was a human world. Humans were considered weak and primitive by the Volanthi. They lived short lives and had soft bodies. The High Council decided that Earth Colony 7 should be destroyed. The humans there had built a mining operation that the Empire wanted. It was easier to kill them all than to negotiate. Cirith stood before the council and said no. "These humans have done nothing wrong," she said. "They are simply trying to survive. We should trade with them, not destroy them." High Councilor Vurath looked at her with all 6 of his eyes. His shell was gray with age, and his voice was cold. "You speak of trade with insects? They are nothing. Their lives mean nothing." "All life has meaning," Cirith replied. "That is what our ancestors taught us." "Our ancestors conquered the galaxy," Vurath said. "They did not show mercy to the weak." The council voted. Cirith was the only one who voted to spare the human colony. The order for destruction was given. But that night, Cirith did something that would change her life forever. She sent a secret message to the human colony. She warned them. She gave them time to evacuate their people before the Volanthi fleet arrived. The humans escaped. But Cirith was caught. Vurath himself led the guards who came to her chambers. They dragged her before the full council in chains. Her own people watched as she was forced to her knees. "You have betrayed the Empire," Vurath announced. "You have sided with primitives against your own kind. For this crime, you must be punished." Cirith expected death. She was ready for it. But Vurath had something worse in mind. "Death would be too kind," he said with a terrible smile. "Instead, you will suffer the ritual of severance." The crowd gasped. Even among the Volanthi, this punishment was rare. It was considered worse than death. The priests came forward with their ancient tools. Cirith screamed as they cut her connection to the hive mind. The voices that had been with her since birth went silent. The feeling of belonging, of being part of something greater, was ripped away. She felt empty. She felt alone. She felt like half of her soul had been torn out, but they were not finished. They removed her ceremonial wings, the beautiful silver wings that marked her as royalty. They stripped away her royal robes and her jewels. They put a metal collar around her neck that would translate her words into human language. "From this moment, you have no name," Vurath declared. "You have no rank. You have no rights. You are property. And we are sending you to live among the very creatures you tried to save. Let us see how much you love humans when you are their slave." 3 days later, a small Volanthi shuttle landed in the cargo bay of a human ship. The ship was old and ugly. Its name was the Distant Horizon, and it was a cargo hauler that moved supplies between frontier colonies. The shuttle door opened. 2 Volanthi guards pushed Cirith out. She stumbled and almost fell. Her body was weak from the ritual. Her mind was still screaming from the silence where the hive mind used to be. A human man stood waiting. He was not tall. He was not impressive. He had brown hair with some gray in it, and his face was rough from years of hard work. His clothes were simple and worn. His name was Daniel Cole, and he had no idea why the Volanthi Empire had contacted him. The Volante ambassador stepped out of the shuttle. He was dressed in fine robes, and his smile showed too many teeth. "Mr. Cole," the ambassador said, "the Empire thanks you for accepting our gift." "Gift?" Daniel looked confused. "I got a message saying I had to come here. Nobody said anything about a gift." "This female is now your property," the ambassador explained, gesturing at Sirith. "She is a criminal. Her punishment is to serve humans. You may do whatever you wish with her. Work her, sell her. It does not matter to us. She has no value." Daniel looked at Sirith. She stood with her head down, her golden eyes dull and empty. Even in her broken state, she was almost 7 feet tall. Her shell was cracked in places from the ritual. She looked like someone who had given up on life. "I don't want a slave," Daniel said. The ambassador laughed. "That is not your choice, human. She belongs to you now. If you abandon her, she will die. Her translator collar is coded to your ship. If she goes more than 1 kilometer from the distant horizon, it will kill her." Before Daniel could argue more, the ambassador returned to his shuttle. The guards followed. Within minutes, the shuttle was gone, and Daniel was alone with the former queen of 3 planets. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Sirith waited for the abuse to begin. She had been told that humans were violent and cruel. She expected to be beaten. She expected to be humiliated. She had prepared herself for years of suffering before death finally took her. Daniel scratched his head. He looked uncomfortable and confused. Then he did something that Sirith did not expect at all. "You hungry?" he asked. She looked up at him. She did not understand the question. "Hungry," he repeated slowly. "Food. Do you eat?" "I mean, I don't know what Volante eat, but I've got soup." "Everybody likes soup, right?" Sirith stared at him. In 200 years of life, in all her time as a queen commanding millions of subjects, no one had ever asked her such a simple question in such a kind voice. "I do not understand," she said. "Why are you not angry? Why would I be angry? I am your property now. I am your slave. You should be giving me orders. You should be punishing me." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Lady, I don't know what those people did to you, and I don't know why they sent you here. But I'm just a cargo hauler. I move boxes from one planet to another. I don't own people. That's not something I do." He walked toward the door that led to the rest of the ship. Then he stopped and looked back at her. "I've got 2 rules on my ship," he said. "First, everybody works. I'll find something you can do to help out. Second, everybody eats. So come on, let's get some food in you. Then we can figure out what happens next." He walked through the door, leaving it open behind him. Sirith stood alone in the cargo bay. Her whole life had been destroyed. Her people had thrown her away like garbage. She had been given to a primitive species as a joke, as a final humiliation. But this primitive human had offered her soup. Slowly, on legs that still shook from her ordeal, Sirith walked through the door. She did not know what the future held. She did not know if she could trust this strange human. But for the first time since the ritual, she felt something other than despair. She felt curious, and that small feeling, that tiny spark of interest in what would happen next, was the first step on a journey that would change the galaxy forever. The first weeks on the distant horizon were the hardest of Sirith's life. The silence in her mind was constant. Where the hive mind once sang with millions of voices, there was now only emptiness. She felt like a person who had gone deaf and blind at the same time. Half of her senses were gone. She could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she relived the ritual. She felt the priests cutting her connection away. She heard the crowd cheering as she screamed. She woke up gasping, her claws scratching at the metal walls of her small cabin. Daniel never complained. No matter what time it was, When he heard her screaming, he would knock on her door. He never came inside without permission. He would just stand in the hallway and talk to her through the door. Bad dream? He would ask. Yes. She would answer, her voice shaking. Want some tea? I've got this stuff from a planet called green water. It's supposed to help you relax. Tastes kind of like dirt, but good dirt, you know? She did not know. But she would open the door, and they would sit in the small kitchen while he made tea. He would talk about nothing important. He would tell her about the planets he had visited. He would complain about a part of the ship that needed fixing. He would share funny stories about customers who had given him strange cargo to deliver. He never asked her about the ritual. He never asked her about her past as a queen. He seemed to understand that she was not ready to talk about those things. Slowly, Sirith began to heal. She started eating regular meals. Daniel learned that Volanti could eat most human foods, though they preferred their meat raw. He bought fresh meat at each station they visited, just for her. When she tried to thank him, he shrugged and said it was nothing. She started helping with the ship. Her education as a queen had included engineering and mathematics. The distant horizon was old, and many of its systems were held together with tape and hope. Sirith found problems that Daniel had never noticed. She fixed a navigation computer and made it twice as fast. She improved the engines so they used less fuel. She repaired a leak in the life support system that could have killed them both. You're really good at this, Daniel said one day as he watched her work on the weapon system. I was trained in all technical fields, Sirith explained. A queen must understand how her ships work. It was the first time she had mentioned being a queen. Daniel nodded slowly, but did not push for more information. Well, I'm glad you're here, he said. This old ship hasn't run this well in years. Sirith felt something warm in her chest. It was a feeling she barely recognized anymore. It was pride. Weeks turned into months. Sirith and Daniel developed a routine. They would wake up, eat breakfast together, and discuss the day's work. Daniel would pilot the ship while Sirith monitored the systems. In the evenings, they would sit in the cockpit and watch the stars drift past. Daniel taught her to play cards. She was terrible at first, but she learned quickly. Soon she was beating him more often than not. You're cheating, Daniel accused her one night after losing 5 games in a row. I do not cheat, Sirith replied. Her antennae twitching in what Daniel had learned was the Volanti version of a smile. You simply have no strategy. I've got plenty of strategy. You've just got more eyes than me. You can see my cards. I cannot see your cards. Your face tells me everything. When you have good cards, you smile. When you have bad cards, you frown. Humans are very easy to read. Daniel laughed. It was a good sound, warm and genuine. Sirith found that she enjoyed making him laugh. She taught him things in return. She showed him Volanti poetry, ancient verses about honor and sacrifice. She explained the mathematics of hyperspace travel, concepts that human scientists had not yet discovered. She told him about the philosophy of her people, the belief that all life was connected in ways that science could not measure. Is that why you saved that human colony? Daniel asked one night. Because you believe all life is connected? Sirith was quiet for a long moment. It was the first time either of them had mentioned why she was here. Yes, she finally said. My people have forgotten the old ways. They see other species as inferior, as things to be used or destroyed. But the ancient texts say that all thinking beings are part of the same family. To destroy another species is to destroy part of ourselves. That's a beautiful way to see things. It is an unpopular way. That is why I was punished. Daniel put down his cards. His face was serious. What they did to you was wrong. You have to know that. You tried to save innocent lives, and they hurt you for it. That's not justice. That's just cruelty. It is the law of the Empire. then the law is wrong. Sirith looked at this simple human, this cargo hauler who had no power and no status. He spoke against the Volanti Empire as if it was nothing. He called their laws wrong without any fear. "You are a strange creature, Daniel Cole," she said. "Maybe, but I know the difference between right and wrong. And what happened to you was wrong." That night, Sirith slept without nightmares for the first time. The months continued to pass. Sirith grew stronger. Her shell, which had cracked during the ritual, began to heal. Her eyes returned to their bright golden color. She stood taller. She spoke more confidently. She was no longer a queen. But she was becoming something else. She was becoming herself. One day, raiders attacked the distant horizon near the Kelvin Reach. It was a lawless area of space where pirates hunted cargo ships. 3 small attack vessels appeared on the sensors, moving fast. "Get to the back of the ship," Daniel said, his hands flying over the controls. "Hide in the cargo bay. I'll try to talk to them." "Talk to them?" Sirith moved to the weapons console instead. "They are not here to talk. They are here to kill us and take what we have." "I know, but I can't fight 3 ships. The distant horizon isn't a warship. It does not need to be a warship." Sirith's claws danced over the controls. "It only needs me." The raiders opened fire. The ship shook as shots hit their shields. Daniel tried to dodge, but the distant horizon was slow and heavy with cargo. Sirith tracked all 3 enemy ships in her mind. She calculated their speed, their trajectory, their weapon cycle times. She had commanded fleets of hundreds of vessels. 3 small pirate ships were nothing. She fired. The first shot hit the lead raider's engine. The ship spun out of control. She fired again. The second raider lost its weapons. A third shot disabled the third raider's navigation dot in less than 30 seconds. All 3 pirates were dead in space. Daniel stared at her with his mouth open. "What the hell was that?" "I told you," Sirith said calmly. "I was trained in all fields, including combat. You just beat 3 ships by yourself." They were poorly trained. Their tactics were predictable. Any competent Volanti officer could have done the same. Daniel shook his head slowly. A strange smile spread across his face. "Sirith, you are full of surprises." That night, after they had escaped the area and made sure the ship was undamaged, Daniel brought out a small box from his personal storage. "I've been wanting to give you this for a while," he said, "but the time never felt right. It feels right now." He opened the box. Inside was a simple necklace with a small crystal pendant on a leather cord. "It belonged to my mother," Daniel explained. "She died when I was young. She always said it brought luck. I think you should have it." Sirith stared at the pendant. "I cannot accept this. It is too precious." "That's exactly why you should have it. Because you're precious too. Because what you did today, what you've done every day since you got here, matters." Because what you did today, what you've done every day since you got here, what you've done every day since you got here, matters. You matter, Sirith. Not because you were a queen, but because of who you are. Sirith took the pendant with trembling claws. She put it around her neck. The crystal felt warm against her shell. "Among my people," she said quietly, "to give such a gift means deep loyalty. It means family." "Good," Daniel said with a warm smile. "Because that's what we are now. We're family." For the first time since her exile, Sirith felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not know that Volanti could cry. Perhaps they could not, before. Perhaps this was something new, something learned from humans. She had lost everything. Her throne, her people, her connection to the hive mind. She had been thrown away like garbage. But in this small ship, with this simple human, She had found something she had never had as a queen. She had found a home. Stories spread fast in space. Traders talked to other traders. Station workers gossiped with travelers. And soon, everyone on the frontier had heard about the human cargo hauler and his Volanthe companion. Some said she was a princess who had run away from home. Others said she was a spy, gathering information on human worlds. A few told the truth, that she was a queen who had been punished for showing mercy. But most people did not believe that story. It seemed too strange to be real. Daniel and Cirith ignored the rumors. They continued their work, moving cargo from planet to planet. They fixed problems. They avoided trouble. They built a quiet life together. But trouble was coming for them. Whether they wanted it or not, it started with news from the border. 3 human colonies had been attacked by Volanthe warships. The attacks came without warning. The colonies had no defenses. Thousands of people died. The survivors sent desperate messages begging for help. The Volanthe Empire had declared war on humanity. Daniel heard the news at a fuel station on the edge of human space. He sat in the distant horizon's cockpit, watching the reports on the screen. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. "They're killing everyone," he said quietly. "Women, children, they're not even taking prisoners." Cirith stood behind him. She had seen the reports too. She recognized the tactics. They were the same ones she had argued against for decades. "This is what I tried to prevent," she said. "The High Council has wanted this war for a long time. They believe humans are inferior. They believe you should be destroyed before you become a threat." "A threat? We don't even have weapons that can hurt their big ships. That is why they attack now, while you are still weak." Cirith's claws tightened into fists. "I should have done more. I should have fought harder. Maybe I could have stopped this. You tried. They punished you for trying. It was not enough." They sat in silence for a long time. The news reports continued. More colonies attacked. More people dead. The human military was mobilizing, but everyone knew they were outmatched. The Volanthe Empire had thousands of warships. Humanity had hundreds. A few days later, a military shuttle docked with the distant horizon. Daniel watched on the sensors as armed soldiers marched through the airlock. His heart was pounding. Were they here to arrest Cirith? Were they here to take her away? The soldiers spread out through the cargo bay. Then a woman walked in. She was not tall, but she carried herself like someone in command. Her hair was gray, cut short. Her eyes were sharp and cold. She wore the uniform of a commander in the United Earth Defense Force. "Mr. Cole," she said, "I am Commander Lisa Burke. We need to talk." Daniel stepped forward, putting himself between the commander and Cirith. "She hasn't done anything wrong. She's been with me for almost a year. She's helped me. She saved my life." Burke raised her hand. "Relax, Mr. Cole. We're not here to take her. We're here because we need her help." "Help?" Burke looked past Daniel at Cirith. "You were a queen of the Volanthe Empire. You commanded fleets. You sat on the High Council. You know their tactics, their strategies, their weaknesses. We need that knowledge. Without it, we're going to lose this war." Cirith stepped forward. "And what happens if I refuse? Then we fight blind, and millions of humans die. Why should I help you? My own people cast me out. Why should I care what happens to either side?" Burke's face did not change. "Because you already showed us who you are. You risked everything to save one human colony. That tells me you care about innocent lives. Right now, innocent lives are being taken every day. You can help us stop it." Cirith was quiet. She touched the pendant around her neck, the one Daniel had given her. She thought about the ritual. She thought about the pain. She thought about everything the Volanthe Empire had taken from her. Then she thought about Daniel, about his kindness, about the soup he had offered her when she was broken, about the months of healing and learning and growing. "I will help you," she said, "but I will not just give advice. I want to lead. Give me a command, and I will show you how to beat the Empire." Burke studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "That can be arranged." Within weeks, Sirith was standing before a council of human admirals. The meeting room was large and cold. The admirals sat behind a long table, looking at her with suspicion and fear. She was the enemy. She was one of the monsters who were killing their people. But Sirith did not back down. She stood tall, her golden eyes bright, and she began to speak. "The Volanthi Empire is not invincible," she said. "They have weaknesses. They are arrogant. They believe that victory is certain, so they do not prepare for failure. Their fleet formations leave gaps on the left side because they believe no enemy would be smart enough to attack there. Their sensors have blind spots at close range because they never expect enemies to get that close." She walked to a large screen and began drawing diagrams. She showed the admirals exactly how Volanthi ships were organized. She explained their communication systems. She revealed the codes they used and how to jam them. The admirals listened in silence. Some of them started taking notes. Others leaned forward with new hope in their eyes. "But information is not enough," Sirith continued. "You also need allies. The Volanthi Empire is not united. The lower castes have been oppressed for centuries. They have no rights. They are treated like slaves. Many of them hate the High Council as much as I do. You want us to recruit Volanthi to our side?" One admiral asked. "How is that possible?" "Because I know them. I know their leaders. I know their secrets. I know which commanders can be convinced to change sides." Sirith's voice grew stronger. "This is not a war between species. It is a war between tyranny and freedom. If we show the Volanthi people that there is another way, many of them will join us." After the meeting, Commander Burke walked with Sirith through the halls of the military base. "You impressed them," Burke said. "I haven't seen admirals that quiet in years. They were expecting a monster. I gave them hope instead. Can you really do what you promised? Can you turn Volanthi against their own empire?" Sirith stopped walking. She looked at the human commander with ancient eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. "The Empire destroyed me. They took everything I had. But they made a mistake. They sent me to live among humans. They thought it would break me completely. Instead, it taught me something new." "What did it teach you?" "That kindness is stronger than cruelty. That hope is stronger than fear. And that people who are treated with respect will fight for those who respect them." Sirith touched her pendant again. "A human showed me that. Now I will show the rest of my people." She walked away, leaving Burke standing in the hallway. The commander watched her go. She had commanded soldiers for 20 years. She had met heroes and cowards, geniuses and fools. But she had never met anyone like Sirith for the first time since the war began. Lisa Burke allowed herself to believe that humanity might survive. The work began immediately. Sirith sent secret messages to contacts she still had in the Empire. She reached out to dissidents, to rebels, to anyone who opposed the High Council. She told them that she was alive. She told them that she was fighting back. She told them that there was another way. The responses came slowly at first. A few encrypted messages. Some secret information about fleet movements. But then the responses grew. More and more Volanthi reached out. They were tired of the High Council. They were tired of endless war. They wanted peace. 3 months later, an entire Volanthi carrier group defected to the human side. They had been convinced by Sirith's messages. They wanted to fight for a new future. The High Council was furious. They had expected humanity to fall quickly. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that would not give up. An enemy led by the queen they had tried to destroy, and the war was just beginning. The war had lasted 2 years. Both sides had won battles and lost them. Millions had died. Planets had burned. But now, everything was about to change. The Volante Empire had gathered its entire main fleet. 5,000 warships, including the largest vessels ever built. They were heading for Nexus Prime, the main shipyard of the human military. If they destroyed it, humanity would lose the ability to build new ships. The war would effectively be over. Cirith knew this was coming. Her spies had warned her weeks ago. She had spent every moment since then preparing. This is it, she told the gathered commanders in the war room. Everything depends on this battle. If we lose Nexus Prime, we lose the war. Admiral Peter Grant, the highest-ranking human officer, looked at the tactical display with fear in his eyes. They outnumber us 3-1. Even with the Volante defectors, we only have about 1,500 ships. Numbers are not everything, Cirith replied. The Empire has never lost a major battle. They are overconfident. They expect us to run or surrender. They do not expect us to fight. And they certainly do not expect us to win. How do we win against those odds? Cirith pointed to the display. We let them think they are winning. We fall back. We look weak. We let them spread out their fleet to chase us. And then we attack from all sides at once. The plan was complicated. It required perfect timing. It required every ship to do exactly what they were supposed to do at exactly the right moment. One mistake could mean disaster, but Cirith had spent her whole life commanding fleets. She knew how to win battles that seemed impossible. Daniel stood at the back of the room, watching. He refused to stay behind. When Cirith had told him that she was going to lead the fleet personally, he had insisted on coming with her. If you are going to fight, I'm going to be there, he had said. That's what family does. Cirith had argued with him. She had told him it was too dangerous. She had begged him to stay safe. But Daniel would not change his mind. Now they stood together on the bridge of the carrier Spirit of Earth. It was the largest ship in the human fleet, and it would be at the center of the battle. Commander Burke had assigned Daniel as Cirith's personal aide. His job was to make sure she had everything she needed to focus on the fight. Fleet is ready. Admiral, the communications officer reported. Cirith had earned the title of Admiral through her victories over the past 2 years. Human soldiers who had once feared her now followed her without question. They had seen what she could do. They had seen her save their lives again and again. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 5,000 enemy ships were coming. Her own people. The people who had cast her out and tried to destroy her. All ships, she said, her voice calm and steady. This is Admiral Cirith. Today, we fight for the future. Not just the future of humanity, but the future of all peoples. For too long, the High Council has ruled through fear. They have crushed anyone who disagreed with them. They have destroyed innocent lives because they could. She paused. Daniel handed her a cup of coffee. She took a sip and continued. Today we show them that fear does not work. Today we show them that free people, fighting together, are stronger than any empire. Some of you may not survive this battle, but your sacrifice will be remembered forever. Your children and grandchildren will tell stories about what you did here today. She set down the coffee cup. Her golden eyes blazed with fire. Launch all fighters. Begin attack pattern. And show these tyrants what happens when they underestimate humanity. The battle began. The first phase went exactly as Cirith had planned. The human fleet pretended to be weak. They fell back. They let some of their outer ships get destroyed. The Volante commanders saw easy victory. They pushed forward aggressively, spreading their formation wide to catch the fleeing humans. That was their first mistake. Now, Cirith ordered, all ambush groups, attack. From behind asteroids and hidden in sensor shadows, 200 ships appeared. They hit the scattered Volanthi formation from the sides and rear. The Empire ships, which had been chasing an easy target, suddenly found themselves surrounded. Chaos erupted. Volanthi commanders screamed orders. Ships tried to reform their lines. But it was too late. The humans had caught them off guard. The battle raged for hours. Cirith coordinated everything. She tracked hundreds of ships in her mind at once. She gave orders constantly, adjusting her strategy as the situation changed. She predicted enemy movements before they happened, but the Empire had more ships, and they were starting to recover. Their commanders were not stupid. They pulled their formations back together. They brought their heavy battleships forward, and then the flagship appeared. The Eternal Dominion was the largest warship ever built by the Volanthi Empire. It was commanded by High Counselor Varath himself, the one who had ordered Cirith's punishment. The ship was massive, almost a kilometer long. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets. Surrender, Broken Queen. Varath's voice crackled over the communication system. You have fought well, but it is over. Your primitive allies cannot defeat the might of the Empire. Give up now, and I will grant you a quick death. Cirith smiled. It was a cold, dangerous smile that made everyone on the bridge shiver. Hello, Varath, she replied. I have waited a long time for this moment. You cannot win. I have the most powerful ship in the galaxy. You have a large ship. That is not the same thing. Cirith opened a different channel. All Volanthi allies, execute attack pattern remembrance. Behind the Eternal Dominion, space rippled. 50 Volanthi warships decloaked. They were ships that had defected to Cirith's side. Their commanders were Volanthi, who believed in her vision of a better future. Varath had never imagined that his own people might betray him. This is for everyone you destroyed, Cirith said softly. For the queens you murdered. For the castes you enslaved. For the innocents you killed without mercy. The Volanthi defector ships opened fire on the Eternal Dominion. At the same time, Cirith ordered the human fleet to attack from the front. The massive flagship was caught between two forces. Its shields began to fail. Impossible, Varath screamed. You cannot do this. I am the High Counselor. I am the voice of the Empire. You are nothing, Cirith replied. You are a tyrant. And today your tyranny ends. The Eternal Dominion exploded. Varath's last transmission was a scream of rage and disbelief. With the flagship gone and their commander dead, the remaining Volanthi fleet began to break apart. Some ships tried to flee. Others surrendered. A few kept fighting, but without coordination, they were quickly destroyed or disabled. When the battle ended, the humans had lost about 300 ships. The Volanthi had lost over 3,000. It was the greatest defeat the Empire had ever suffered. Across the galaxy, the news spread. The Broken Queen had returned. She had destroyed the High Council's greatest fleet. She had killed High Counselor Varath himself, and she was not finished yet. On the bridge of the Spirit of Earth, the crew cheered. Soldiers hugged each other. Some were crying with relief. They had survived. They had won. Daniel walked up to Cirith. She was still standing at the command console, her claws gripping the edge of the desk. Her eyes were tired. Her body was exhausted from hours of intense concentration. You did it, Daniel said softly. We did it, she corrected him. I could not have done this without you. Without humans. You showed me that another way was possible. I just made coffee. Cirith laughed. It was a strange sound coming from a Volanthi, but it was genuine. You did more than that. You saved me, Daniel Cole. When everyone else saw a broken queen, you saw a person. You gave me back my hope. She reached out and took his hand. Her claws were gentle, careful not to hurt him. Now we take that hope to the rest of the galaxy. The war was not over, but the tide had turned, and everyone knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The war lasted 3 more years after the Battle of Nexus Prime, but everyone knew how it would end. The Volanthe Empire was falling apart. After Varath's death, the High Council started fighting among themselves. Different factions blamed each other for the defeat. Some wanted to continue the war. Others wanted to negotiate peace. A few tried to seize power for themselves. While they fought, Cirith kept attacking. A coalition of human and Volanthe ships moved from system to system, freeing planets that had been under Council control. Every victory brought more defectors to her side. The lower castes of Volanthe society, who had been treated like slaves for centuries, rose up against their masters. Cirith never forgot where she came from. When she captured Council strongholds, she did not kill the prisoners. She gave them a choice: join the New Order or go into exile. Most of them chose to join. They had seen how she treated her people. They had seen that there was another way to live. Daniel stayed by her side through all of it. He was not a soldier. He was not a commander. He was just a cargo hauler who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he had become something more. He had become the heart of the rebellion. When Cirith was tired, he made her rest. When she was angry, he helped her calm down. When she doubted herself, he reminded her of who she was. "You're doing the right thing," he would tell her. "That's all that matters." The final battle happened at the capital world of the Volanthe Empire. The last members of the High Council had gathered there with their remaining loyal forces. They knew that if they lost this fight, everything was over. Cirith gave them one last chance to surrender. They refused. The battle was fierce but short. The Council's forces were outnumbered and demoralized. When the last Council member was captured, the war officially ended. 1 week later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on the capital world. There were humans and Volanthe, but also members of a dozen other species that had been watching the war. They had come to decide what would happen next. Many of them wanted Cirith to become the new Empress. She had proven herself in battle. She has shown wisdom and mercy. She was the natural choice to lead the Volanthe people into a new era. Cirith stood before the assembly. She wore simple clothes, not royal robes. The only decoration she had was the pendant that Daniel had given her, the crystal that had belonged to his mother. "I know what you want from me," she said. "You want me to take the throne. You want me to rule the empire as queens have ruled for 3,000 years. The crowd murmured in agreement. "But I will not do that." Silence fell over the assembly. People looked at each other in confusion. "I was a queen once," Cirith continued. "I had power. I had armies. I had everything that should have made me happy. But I was not happy. The empire was built on cruelty and control. Even as queen, I was trapped by its rules and traditions." She stepped forward, her golden eyes meeting the eyes of everyone in the room. The empire must end. Not because it was defeated in war, but because it was wrong from the beginning. No species should rule over others. No caste should be treated as less valuable than another. We need something new. Something better. She raised her hand. "I propose a federation. A union of equal peoples. Each species will govern itself, but we will work together for peace and trade. We will settle disputes through discussion, not war. We will help each other instead of conquering each other." The crowd began to talk among themselves. Some were excited. Others were worried. This was not what they had expected. Admiral Grant stepped forward. He had become the leader of the human military during the war. He was respected by soldiers of all species. "I support this proposal," he said. "The humans will join this federation. We have seen what happens when one group tries to control everyone else. We want no part of that future. One by one, other representatives spoke. The Volanthi defectors supported the plan. Other species agreed to join. By the end of the day, the Galactic Federation was born. Cirith was chosen to be its first ambassador. She would travel between worlds, helping new members join and resolving conflicts between old enemies. She accepted the position gladly. Daniel, of course, came with her. 10 years passed. The Federation grew. Wars became rare. Trade flourished. Species that had been enemies for centuries learned to work together. Cirith and Daniel traveled everywhere, aboard a new ship that was still called the Distant Horizon. It was bigger than the old cargo hauler, but it felt the same. It felt like home. On the anniversary of their meeting, they returned to the station where they had first met. The cargo bay where Cirith had been dumped like garbage had been turned into a museum. People came from across the galaxy to see where the legend had begun. They stood together in the old cargo bay, now filled with displays and holographics telling their story. "It's strange," Daniel said, "looking at all this. I was just a guy who hauled boxes. Now they call me a hero." "You are a hero," Cirith replied. "You saved a queen. I offered you soup. You offered me hope." She touched the pendant around her neck. "The historians will write about battles and treaties. They will analyze strategies and count casualties. But that is not the true story." "What is the true story?" Cirith turned to face him. Even after all these years, her eyes were still bright gold, still full of fire. "The true story is about a broken creature who was given to a simple man as a punishment. The people who sent her expected her to suffer. They expected her to die alone and forgotten. They thought kindness was weakness. They thought mercy was foolish." She took Daniel's hand gently. But that simple man did not see a monster. He did not see an enemy. He saw a person in pain, and he chose to help. He did not ask for anything in return. He did not expect any reward. He simply did what was right. Daniel squeezed her hand. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Cirith said firmly. "That is what makes you special. You believe that anyone would do the same. But I have lived for centuries. I have met kings and generals, priests and philosophers. Most of them would have used me. Some would have hurt me. Very few would have offered me coffee and asked if I was hungry." She smiled, her antennae twitching in the way that meant happiness. "That is the story that matters. Not the battles. Not the treaties. The story of one person choosing to be kind when no one was watching. When no one would have blamed him for being cruel." She looked around the museum, at the displays telling their story to visitors from 100 worlds. "This is what we built. Not with weapons or armies, but with kindness. We showed the galaxy that mercy is not weakness. That compassion is not foolish. That the smallest act of decency can echo through centuries and change everything." Daniel followed her gaze. He saw children of many species reading about their adventure. He saw old soldiers wiping tears from their eyes. He saw young couples holding hands and dreaming of their own futures. "That's a pretty good legacy," he said softly. "It is the best legacy," Cirith replied, "because it proves that no one is too small to make a difference, that no situation is too hopeless to be changed, and that sometimes the universe rewards those who do good." She leaned against him, the crystal pendant warm against her shell. "Thank you, Daniel Cole, for the coffee, for the pendant, for everything." "Thank you for not giving up," Daniel replied, "even when you had every reason to." They stood together in the cargo bay, the queen who had become a legend and the cargo hauler who had made it possible. Around them, the galaxy continued to turn. New generations were born, knowing only peace. The old hatreds faded. The Federation grew stronger. and in the stories told to children at bedtime. In the songs sung by travelers between stars, one truth was always remembered: that kindness is the strongest force in the universe, that hope can survive even the darkest night, and that sometimes the most important moment in history is when one person looks at another and sees not an enemy, but a friend. The Broken Queen had become a legend, but she would always remember that it started with soup.